Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Thank you all so much for joining me. I'm super excited to dive in. We have a really great presentation planned covering everything you need to rethink, refresh, and revive your digital marketing. So give yourselves a pat on the back for showing up today to take time out of your day to work towards a better marketing strategy. I just want to give folks a couple more minutes to hop on here. So while we do that, I do want to make sure that everyone on this call is able to use the question box feature within the GoToWebinar control panel. That'll essentially be like your chat feature for today. So I'll be able to see all of the questions that come in. So you won't be able to chat with participants or other attendees here, but make sure that you're able to use that question box. Go ahead and type into that box. Let me know where you're calling in from today. I'll call out some of the answers that we get in from this question box here. So just type in there, let me know, say hi to me, say hello, let me know where you're calling from. One beautiful thing about these webinars is they bring together people from all different corners of the world. For example, I'm based in Boston, Massachusetts. Very exciting time for us right now. Go Celtics. Sorry for any non-Celtics fans on the call right now. Let's see, we got a few people calling in already. We have Dan from South Tulsa. Hello, Dan. Phyllis from Alabama. Rachel from Minnesota. Ed from Houston, Texas. I was just in Houston, Texas last weekend visiting a friend. We have Jackie from Michigan. Hello. Deanna from Manhattan, Kansas. Hello. John from West Palm Beach, Florida. Madeline from Miami, Florida. Jordana from Michigan. We have a few people from Massachusetts here. Carrie says also go Celtics. Hello, Carrie. Matt from Scottsdale, Arizona. Mary Lou from Wisconsin. Laura from Miami. Jacqueline from Tennessee. Tons of folks calling in. Some folks from New Jersey here. Claude from Quebec, Canada. Welcome. I wish I could call out every single one of you, but as you can tell, there weren't a lot of places that I said twice. So pretty amazing that, you know, no matter where you are in the world, you all showed up here today to, again, better your marketing. So with that, we'll jump into a few housekeeping items for today's presentation. So welcome everyone again. Thank you for joining me. Just know that this webinar will be recorded. So don't worry about taking notes or anything like that. You'll get a copy of the presentation in your inboxes later today. And you can also easily find all of our webinar recordings on the WordStream and LocalIQ YouTube channels. So just hop on over to YouTube, search LocalIQ or WordStream, click on the channel, and you'll find this webinar recording along with all of our past webinar recordings on there as well. So again, this will be recorded. Make sure you check your materials for, in your inbox later today. And again, I made sure that you all had access to the Q&A panel because I want you to feel comfortable asking me questions throughout. I'll see them come in as I'm speaking with you all. And again, we'll have a Q&A session at the end, so be sure you stick around for that. If you've attended any of our past webinars, you know that our Q&A sessions are pretty in-depth. It's a really unique experience to kind of get your questions answered in what feels like a one-on-one setting where I'll be picking out your questions and answering them live here. So definitely be sure to add your questions in for that at the end. So for everyone on this call today, I just want to quickly get us on the same page as to who LocalIQ is. Now, some of you might already be familiar with us over at LocalIQ. Some of you might already be working with us, and that's great. And some of you might be totally new, welcome. And some of you also might be familiar or working with our sister brands, Reach Local and WordStream. So for everyone on this call, I just want us to all get on the same page that LocalIQ is a fully integrated growth marketing platform that marries innovative technology and unparalleled expertise to give your business everything it needs to thrive and prosper. So how exactly we do that? Well, technology is at our core. We use our proprietary AI optimized technology that you can't find anywhere else, informed by over 1 million LocalIQ campaigns to help you make data-backed decisions for your business and your marketing. We also give you tools at your fingertips to put time back into your day so that you don't have to worry about doing the menial tasks of marketing and can focus on growing your business. And also, we've been in the digital marketing game for, got to update this, almost 20 years now. It's been a wild ride. We've been through it all. If you think about the age of digital marketing, it's really not much older than that. So we've really been there through all of the platform changes, all of the evolutions of the landscape, and we're here to tell that story. One thing that we're really proud of here at Local IQ is we are a premier partner with all the major advertising platforms. Now, this isn't just handed to any marketing platform out there. We have to meet a rigorous set of requirements, including displaying thought leadership, making sure that we're consistently providing campaign success for the accounts that we help with, and again, meet a rigorous set of many metrics and requirements. So just a heads up there, really excited about that. A little bit about me, you're the person that's been talking to you for the past 10 minutes here. I'm Susie. It's wonderful to meet you all. I'm your webinar facilitator and speaker for today. I'm a senior content marketing specialist over at Local IQ, where I write educational content on everything on the digital marketing sun, from SEO to PPC to display ads to email, anything and everything. I've written about it, and how I've gotten into this role was I actually was a digital marketing consultant over at WordStream, where I was coaching marketing folks and business owners like many of the folks on this call today through the day-to-day best practices on major platforms like Google Ads, Facebook ads, and so on. So I took that real life experience and applied it to the educational content that I create today. I'm based in Boston, Massachusetts, like I said. And you can follow me on LinkedIn and Twitter, or X as we call it now. I do share out exciting articles that I write, any sort of like upcoming webinars, things like that. A really common question that we get asked on these webinars is, where can you learn more about Local IQ? Where can you learn more about the topics that we cover in these webinars? Because I'll be honest with you, the hour is going to fly by. So if you ever feel like you need a little bit more time with any of the topics that we cover, definitely head over to the Local IQ and WordStream blogs. Our websites are right there, and you can easily navigate to our blogs from there. We cover everything in these webinars in depth on our blog. Also, be sure to follow us on social media if you want to attend future webinars like this, or if you want to just stay updated on like platform updates, things advertisers, marketers should be aware of. We share a lot of that. So you can find Local IQ on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or X, and YouTube, and then WordStream on LinkedIn, Facebook, X, or Twitter, and YouTube. And again, just a little reminder that those are our YouTube channels there. So if you want to find the webinar recording, you can find it on our YouTube channels. So just again, going to remind you all that this will be recorded. All right, so with that said, I do want to warm us all up to this topic. If you've attended any of our past webinars, you know I love to keep our listeners on their toes. So I want you to type into that question box, and I'll call out some answers here. Just a little pop quiz for you. Let's take a quick pulse check. How are you feeling about your 2024 marketing plan? Do you feel like things have been going good so far? Are you struggling to get up and running? Maybe you're a seasoned pro, maybe you're a total beginner. This webinar is going to be friendly to all levels, and I'll keep that in mind. But I just want to hear from the crowd. You know, how are we feeling about our marketing planning? What do we feel like maybe we need to check up on halfway through the year? What channels are working good versus not? And I'll call out some answers here. Okay, a few people are saying that SEO has been slow. Jackie is saying it hasn't been resonating for customer growth. Shana is saying 50-50, getting better, definitely understandable. Ed's saying pretty good. That's great to hear. Stacy's saying great, pacing ahead of annual plan, which is great. Some other folks saying super new, only in the marketing game for a couple of years now. A couple of folks saying struggling, relying on outside SEO companies, understandable. Dan said horrible. Oh, we've all been there. Phyllis says that she just got a plan and is beginning implementation, not sure about it, understandable. Carolyn says she's fairly new, doesn't really know if her marketing plan is going well as it could be. Definitely some questions there, I understand. Cindy says she's not getting the leads she's hoping for, totally understandable. Carrie says it's going good. Lots of different answers here. So if you notice, none of the answers that I called out were exactly the same, and I wish I could call out all of your answers. Thanks for participating in that. But basically my point is, everyone's marketing situation is going to be unique, right? So think about that as I'm going through these general tips and best practices in today's presentation, and how it can apply to your specific situation. And whether or not your marketing is going good or bad, there's always ways that we can pivot and improve. So just having that positive mentality and being flexible is really important. So we're gonna kind of talk about why we're doing this in the middle of June, why it makes it the quote unquote 2nd January in terms of marketing. And we'll talk through 8 different steps you can use for kind of a search ad, search marketing, and digital marketing shakeup. and then some thought starters for you to make sure that you all feel like you have the tools you need when you walk away from this webinar to continue your mid-year marketing. So what makes June the second January? Well, January isn't the only time for new beginnings. You want to be continuously growing and trying new things in your marketing. And it's actually been found that nearly half of businesses have felt like they failed to meet at least half of their strategic targets for marketing. So if you feel like you could be at risk for falling behind in your goals, now is the time to get ahead of that and check in on it. I know it can be easy, I'm sure, to get caught up in like shorter term goals. You know, I know a lot of folks definitely check in on their marketing, maybe on a biweekly, weekly, or even monthly or quarterly basis, and you can get bogged down into some of those smaller KPIs. But if you come back up and think about your holistic marketing and what that annual review will look like at the end of the year, you know, you want to be thinking about the big picture and the general plan and how you can continue to meet those goals. So coming back up from that and, you know, really thinking about how you can pivot to try and hit those goals in the long term and not necessarily the short term can definitely make the difference. It's time to give your marketing a fresh look, you know, check in on your performance against goals. You can also take stock of, you know, your industry, the marketplace, any sort of technology or tools that you could start leveraging now. You can also refine your goals. So maybe you did probably set some goals at the beginning of the year, but you realize you're not going to hit the targets, or you need to pivot. Maybe you're going to crush the targets. You know, whatever your situation may be, you may need to refine those goals from there. And then that can help you understand where you need to optimize, what channels you might need to prioritize, and so on. So let's talk through the 8 steps to a mid-year marketing shakeup. Again, this is definitely search ad geared, but I'll try and make it as applicable as possible to kind of different marketing channels across the board. And again, I'll be able to answer all of your questions at the Q&A session in the end. So the first and foremost is conversion tracking. I feel like this just gets overlooked so much, and when I say overlooked, obviously, you know, we all care about conversions. We're probably tracking some sort of meaningful actions from our marketing, right? But I think we don't check in on it enough. It tends to be a set it and forget it component of any marketing channel, but it can be really, really crucial into judging and tracking your performance, especially halfway through the year. So in fact, 42% of businesses actually found that they aren't tracking conversions at all. And then 29% that are tracking conversions don't have the tracking code installed properly. So you can do a quick conversion tracking checkup. There are plenty of free tools to help you do this, to check the tags on your site. Again, I know they just changed the Google Ads UI interface, so excuse the slightly outdated screenshot here, but the point is to make sure that you're tracking conversions, make sure you know what actions you want to track, and understand too how that's going to impact your PPC performance. So for example, you can really track kind of whatever you want as a conversion, right? So if I track button clicks to, you know, maybe watch a free video on my site, that could inflate my conversion numbers, right? Because more people are going to be clicking that free video, and that's great. Maybe I want to track that, want to make sure I'm taking note of those actions, but just know you kind of have to differentiate between those different actions, right? Because really watching a free video isn't necessarily, you know, going to be contributing to your business's bottom line. It might help move customers through the funnel, so it's still helpful to track it to understand how many people are watching the video and then maybe making a purchase. But just be thinking about that, because it can help you understand, you know, your reporting a little bit better, your numbers a little bit better, when you know exactly what actions are really being counted as conversions, and out of those actions and those conversions, how many of them are actually, you know, those money makers actions, those money making conversions versus just, you know, kind of supplemental actions. And speaking of conversion tracking, another thing that can help you understand your conversion tracking performance halfway through the year are industry benchmarks. If you haven't seen, we did just release our 2024 search ad benchmarks. It's our annual report. We're super proud of it. It's data that you can't find anywhere else. It's pretty amazing. And we found this year that the overall average conversion rate in Google Ads and Microsoft Ads was 6.9%. And it's actually been up year over year. So if you find when you're checking in on your business's digital marketing or your search ad marketing and you see that your conversion rate is going up, that is definitely, of course, a good thing to see in general, but also know that it's kind of following trend with most industries. Now, there were a few industries that saw a drop, so definitely check out our report. It's easily found on the WordStream and Local IQ websites. But again, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this slide, and we have a few slides like this, and I know that it's a lot of data and information to take in, and we're probably looking for, specific industries here. But again, just use this as a guideline. It can be really helpful to know just a general rule of thumb. I'm sure we're all in, specific or different niche industries within these categories or more like subcategories, but try and find the closest fit to your business and just kind of use it as a guideline because it can be really helpful, because otherwise it's hard to really know what a good performance looks like in search ads if you're just looking at your own account data. So moving on from conversions and conversion tracking, also be thinking about your campaign level targeting and your campaign level settings. Now, I did update, just pull a screenshot from an account for an updated view here as the Google UI interface. I'm still getting used to it too, just changed. So it's a little bit of a different display, but regardless, I just wanted to kind of give you an example of what it looks like when you're digging into your campaign level settings on a search ad campaign, or in general, like any digital, like Google Ads campaign, really. They all have pretty similar setup, whether it's display or, whatever. But a few things that I wanted to call out here. First are the networks, because if you would be showing on the search network, you might also end up being opted into show on the display network or the search partner network, and that can impact your numbers, your performance. So that might be something to switch up halfway through the year. Maybe you want to drop those networks or add those networks in to increase your reach. It really depends on your goals. Another couple of things are things like location. Actually, this is something that I have in the past when I was working with various advertisers. We would check in on locations pretty regularly. So if you haven't checked in on your location targeting for your campaigns and it's halfway through the year, now would be a great time to do that. Probably a good idea. Even if you don't do it too much, or if you feel like you are always targeting the same locations, even with the accounts that I have worked with in the past that have had basically the same locations all the time, we have made pretty frequent small tweaks here and there, because it can really, again, just alter the amount of people that you're reaching, how many people are seeing it, where they're seeing it, and so on. And there's also even additional, if you were to click into that, you could see some more advanced location options and location settings that you can also click into that can make a difference. For example, you can be opted to show to people interested in your targeted location versus actually physically in your targeted location, which can be a very big difference in the quality of the traffic that you would be getting, right? So definitely check in on that. And again, we have a lot of info on that on the blog. I could go on, but for the sake of time, just a couple other things here. Bidding strategy is another more significant change that you can make to your accounts about halfway through the year. And this would be a good time, again, because that's another thing that probably isn't changing too much in your accounts. Now, when you do switch up your bidding strategy, just know that you're going to opt yourself into that algorithmic learning period, or that automatic period where you're going to have Google be testing your bids for you. So you might see performance fluctuate for the first couple of weeks max after that. So that's something to keep in mind too. But it can really also, again, make a difference in your performance. So if you feel like your performance is at a standstill when it comes to search ads or really any Google Ads campaign, or if you feel like costs are insane, something like that, normally one of the first places you might want to reconsider is your bidding strategy, because it impacts the costs of everything so much and how your ads are being served so much. So I'll move on, but just a few highlights there. But in general, the main takeaway is, of course, to just check in on those settings. Again, they tend to be set and forgotten, and they need to be set and checked in on. Additionally, you might be checking in on your account structure. So looking at your ad groups, making sure that you're using pretty granular keywords, long-tailed keywords, and also doing some keyword cleanup. That should be something constant in your account. So again, that's kind of another example of something you want to be doing more frequently. So if you haven't been, this is a great time to start and a great time to do so. So again, just a few examples of how you might refine or categorize some keywords, but again, wanting to keep your keywords to a manageable number. So we do use that general rule of thumb of like 10, 15 to 20 keywords in an ad group, and that's loose, right? So if you have way more or way less than that, don't freak out. But kind of the point or the moral of that story of why we have that kind of like baseline recommendation within the industry is because you want to keep your keywords to a manageable amount, so that way you're not digging through hundreds of keywords that just aren't serving you, and having to clean them up all the time or letting anything slip through the cracks. That way you're really focusing in on your core terms. You also don't need as many keywords as you probably think because of the changed and updated matching behaviors within Google Ads. For example, again, with thinking about like the rule of close variance, where you don't necessarily need those like different spelling variations of a term or something like that. Also, again, with the updated match types too, you've also probably found that you can attract more traffic with less keywords because of how the match typing and the matching behavior is now working in Google Ads. So that's one, like kind of the main reasons, few of the main reasons why. But you also don't want too little where you're limiting yourself to the point where you're not showing enough because you're not targeting enough keywords to capture additional queries. So that's kind of why we have that sweet spot. I've definitely seen accounts with way less or way more. Again, it's going to depend, but that can just be a really helpful guideline. To be honest, if you have like tons of keywords in an ad group, that's probably an indication that you need a secondary ad group to split them out, right? Because you want to have thematic ad groups or ad groups that are themed out by core terms that all kind of like go together. So again, that would be an example of, okay, maybe I need to restructure a little bit halfway through the year and split them out. So along with your structure within your ad groups, you can also be checking how many ads are in each ad group. Kind of the same story here. We've seen this story painted from Google as well throughout this year and last year, is that, again, with all the automation that's coming about within the Google Ads platform, you can really get away, you can get more with less within the account, right? So you probably don't need quite as many ads in your ad groups anymore. You could possibly potentially pause ads that are potentially driving up impressions but not getting you clicks, or driving up clicks but not getting you conversions. Usually we say 2 to 3 responsive search ads, if this were a search ad campaign example, within an ad group, right? So you want a couple of ads for Google to cycle through, a few variations there. That way you have the ability to A/B test and so on. But you also, again, don't want to make it unmanageable and take more time to have to go through all these different ads or update these different ads. For example, I know a lot of businesses are seasonal, so you'll probably be updating your ad copy seasonally. And while you can bulk edit ads and do a find and replace with headlines and descriptions within Google Ads, it can still get annoying to try and like manage bulk changes with like a ton of ads. So again, just wanting to refine that a little bit. Along with your ads, you can also be taking into consideration ad assets that you could potentially add in. So not necessarily, auditing your assets. I mean, that's always good to do, but the point here is with this step is to be building out and enriching your account a little bit more to squeeze more out of it halfway through the year. Again, I do feel like whenever ad assets are implemented, they usually perform pretty well. Generally, I've seen great results in accounts that have tried them out. So being sure that, again, just kind of a quick example here, just trying to get the kind of the basics in of like a call extension versus, a local listing extension with the ratings, or potentially some site links here as you see in the bigger box. But there's other extensions that can, or again, I'm calling them extensions because that's what they were called. But again, ad assets here. Be thinking about your ad assets. There's tons of new ones that you can try. For example, image ad assets, location assets, and so on. So definitely be leveraging them. There's really no reason not to, and the reason being is because they're just additional things that get tacked onto your ad. So they're not always guaranteed to show, but when they do show, they just help your ad take up a little more space on the page. They can be a little bit more engaging. It gives the user something else to look at, something else to click on. So definitely try and implement those if you haven't already this year. Along with some of the cleanup, some of the check-in, you might also be re-evaluating your keyword match types. I did kind of allude to this when I was talking about, refining your keywords using, keyword research tools to make sure you're getting good long-tailed keywords in there. You also want to be making sure that you're assigning them the correct match types, and you also may need to edit or change the match types that you're currently using. For example, the most common or like quote unquote starter match type that a lot of folks start on is phrase match. By default, keywords are added actually as broad match, but I usually recommend to folks, if you're not sure what match type to use, to start with phrase match, because it's kind of like the Goldilocks or happy medium between the very loose broad match and the very restrictive exact match. And by very loose and very restrictive, we do realize that, again, matching behavior has been changing a little bit within Google Ads, but this is just kind of a general rule of thumb. As you're also thinking about your targeted keywords, be considering negative keywords. This is a great time to actually add negative keywords into your account, like during your half-year audit, because you probably have, at this point in the year, generated enough search terms in your search terms report that you can actually go through and search for popular queries that your ads have shown for and kind of pick out if there's any that don't align and add them as negatives. That's a very common way to add negative keywords. You can also manually add negative keywords. And same deal here, you can assign them different match types, which I feel like folks don't always take into consideration when they're adding negatives because they're just so focused on negating out that term. But negative keyword match types can also alter what you're going to show for. And that is, of course, going to alter your results. So be adding negative keywords. It can be really helpful to just stay on top of those, to add them in. And that can help you ultimately avoid wasted spend, which is really important. You don't want to be showing for queries that you don't want to show for, right? Because then you're risking, spending some budget on those clicks that just don't end up converting. So thinking about your click-through rate here, here's our advertising benchmarks for click-through rate. Again, the general click-through rate across all 23 industries that we evaluated this year was 6.42%, but click-through rate was actually down year over year by a little over 1%. So if you feel like your click-through rates have been going down, that's actually what we found across the board. So while that isn't I know that isn't encouraging, it can be helpful to know that it's kind of going on throughout the industry. And it can help you understand, like, if you have a nosedive of your click-through rate, that might be a little bit more concerning. But if you are just seeing like a slight drop off, that might be, again, part of just the ebb and flow of the digital landscape right now. However, you definitely want to check on the actual individual metrics, because we do see some extreme outliers here. For example, the arts and entertainment category has a click-through rate of 13.04%, and then versus, some of these ones on the lower end on like 5%, which are lower than the overall general average. So just keeping that in mind, a click-through rate is such a metric that gets slept on. I say it all the time. And the reason why is I think a lot of folks are just really stuck on those money metrics, which I'll get to, but the money metrics, being cost per lead, cost per acquisition, return on ad spend, cost per click, things like that, conversion rate, right? Which is understandable because you're putting budget into these channels, your money is on the line, so you want to see the ROI, but there's a much bigger picture in your performance if you look at other metrics. So click-through rate can actually be really indicative of how you're going to do with those money metrics, right? So if you have a super high click-through rate, well, I know off the bat that you're probably going to be spending a little bit more because you're going to be getting more clicks. Those clicks could be potentially a little bit cheaper. Maybe if you're driving up your click-through rate, it'll help your quality score, so you're getting away with a little bit of a lower bid. So then your average cost per click is going to maybe be a little bit cheaper. But does that mean that the quality of those clicks is a little bit lower, and then your conversion rates or potentially cost per lead aren't as performing as well? There's tons of different questions like that that can be raised from click-through rate. So just a helpful tip there. Jumping over to a couple other metrics, it's time to create a game plan, right? So you looked at kind of a few different things within your account. You're taking inventory of your different key performance indicators or metrics. So how do you optimize? Well, start thinking about those money metrics, right? So if we're looking at average cost per click, the general average cost per click for businesses across the board was $4.66 this year, and that's up 10%, a little over even year over year compared to last year. So kind of same deal here. If you felt like your cost per click has gone up, again, it might be in line with your industry averages here. And again, some big outliers here as well. We have attorneys and legal services, of course, at the highest at $8.94. And then some of our lower outliers here would be arts and entertainment at $1.72. And if you notice, it was kind of the inverse when we were just looking at click-through rate, right? So kind of that same scenario that I was just talking about, right? Where, potentially attorneys and legal services might be getting less clicks, and those clicks would be more expensive. But when those clicks do come in, they might be of higher quality or of higher value to the business. Versus arts and entertainment, people need to make multiple decisions. They're taking a quick look and then coming back and so on. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that if you feel like you're failing in any of these metrics, like I know it can be, again, very discouraging, but you have to kind of just put that aside for a moment to understand that it's okay and it's going to improve, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not working, right? Because the customer journey has changed so much over the last even couple of years, even last year, where people are maybe taking more time to make their buying decisions. Maybe they're hopping around a little bit, so maybe they do see your search ad and it did convince them to buy, but they hold off, they think about it, they go over to your social media page or it's anything like that. So be thinking about how your marketing is effective across the customer journey or across your marketing funnel, and understanding throughout all of your different channels, how is this overall going to grow your business is really important. And then thinking about, again, just some of those money metrics, the average cost per lead, of course. This is the end-all be-all metric, I know, for a lot of businesses, and understandably so, right? It's how much it costs you to get a conversion from a search ad, whether it be a lead or potentially a purchase if you were a retail or e-com based business, whatever it may be. So the average cost per lead or cost per acquisition or cost per conversion, as you might also call it, across the board was $66.69. It's 24% increase year over year. And we did see it also increase, I believe, year over year in 2023. I've been writing this report for a few years now, so definitely interesting to see these trends. Of course, with inflation and kind of the flux in the economy over the last couple of years, plus the ever-changing search landscape, right? Google has rolled out a lot of updates. There have been a lot of new campaign types rolling out. The search engine results page is also changing. That's all going to affect those costs. And again, not every industry saw an increase, so I recommend taking a deep dive into the full report on our website, where we do pull out which industries year over year changed, increased, or decreased. But as you can see here, a lot of major outliers here as well. So again, attorneys and legal services being at the top at $144 per lead, versus some of these lower end ones like auto repair and services and parts at $27 per lead, almost $28, which are both way off from the overall average. So it is important to be kind of looking at those general buckets that are closer to your business to help give you a guideline. But I think this is really important, again, because I do feel like a lot of advertisers do see their cost per lead and don't understand, like, is that a good cost per lead? Am I getting the most bang for my buck from my ads? Which is an understandable question. And if you feel like your cost per lead is high, that's when you want to go back through those steps that I just talked about. Looking at your bidding strategy is one of the first places that I go when I am having the cost per lead conversation, because that can impact your overall bottom line so much, because how much you're willing to bid for a click is going to impact the cost per click. And then if that click does convert, that of course is going to, funnel up into your cost per lead. So just a little something to keep in mind there. So we went through all of those metrics. We went through a lot of steps, a lot of things to be thinking about halfway through the year when it comes to your marketing, your search ads, and so on. So just a few thought starters to keep us moving here. So what you definitely need to know when you're doing a mid-year marketing shakeup or any sort of like check-in audit, whether it be halfway through the year, maybe this is your first one, maybe this is you do them monthly, whatever is okay for your resources or your bandwidth. Go back to the basics. Again, I mentioned a lot of things that I think got easily forgotten by advertisers. So just revisiting the fundamentals, looking at your structure, and I saw a few questions come in about structure too, which I'll try and answer in the Q&A, is really important. And again, never a bad idea. And then using the data. So you don't want to be just looking at your own performance because you're not really going to have anything to go off of when it comes to, well, is that good or bad? And you could look at your own historical data and be like, okay, did I improve from last year or from the beginning of the year or not? But it can still be helpful to know how other businesses within your industry are doing to fully understand, whether or not you are going to get ahead of the competition or not. So using that data, like benchmark report data like we have, or any sort of data that like that can help, but also, again, looking at your own metrics too. And use this also as a reminder to be benchmarking your own data, right? So you do want to be looking back historically and being like, all right, me versus me, did I, go higher or lower than I once was at with my metrics? But again, just also taking both looks is what I'm trying to say there. And then be ready to pivot. Don't be married to one set strategy. And I know that I feel like it sounds honestly a lot easier said than done, because I have been there, with accounts through this with a lot of folks where potentially you probably had maybe an audience or a strategy or a certain campaign type or a certain ad or message or landing page or any type of like strategy like that has really worked for you well in the past. And I've been there so many times with folks where they're so sure that it's going to work. Like they know it's worked, it's tried and true in the past, but the reality is, because the platforms and the landscape is constantly changing so much, what might have worked for you at the beginning of the year or in past years during this time of year might not necessarily work now, and that's okay. My point is to not be married to one set strategy. You need to be ready to pivot and flex according to your account needs. And again, that's totally normal. It's okay to change things in your account. That's the point. There is no right or wrong answer, and it might take a little of trial and error too, and that's okay. And perhaps those strategies too could also bounce back, or maybe just need a little bit of optimization that you wouldn't have necessarily done in the past. So just be thinking about that. Just a few kind of food for thought pieces for us before we get into Q&A. But before I do that, I know I just covered a ton of information. My head is spinning even. I'm sure you all are kind of trying to digest all of this as well. So if you have more questions, I just put a poll up on your screen. If you feel like you want to talk with an expert one-on-one in your own personal time, on your own time, at the time of your choosing, definitely be sure to hit yes on that poll. I saw a lot of questions coming in about like specific industries, specific businesses. If you have questions like that, definitely hit yes on the poll. That's why it's up. The poll is going to take over your whole screen, so you're not going to be able to see me or see anyone else or any slides. There's no slides at this point. It's just the audio portion of the webinar. So if you answer that poll, go ahead and sit back and relax as we jump into the Q&A here. But again, I'm just going to keep that poll up there for folks that do have more questions or are ready, to get their mid-year marketing off the ground and get it started. Definitely make sure to answer that poll. All right, great. So with that being said, going to leave that poll up. Like I said, if you answered, go ahead and sit back and relax. I'm going to jump into the Q&A. So going through our questions here, and there are a ton of questions coming in. If you didn't yet submit your questions for the Q&A, be sure to send them in now. And I'll try and answer as much as I can here. So Stacy had asked a quick question about our data. Are these ad level conversion rates or account level conversion rates? These would be account or campaign level conversion rates. It's actually looking at the campaigns. So all the campaigns within accounts. So it's campaign by campaign level data. Great question. Martha asked a quick question about account structure. She asked, how many ad groups should you have? Good question. So it has varied a lot. Back in the day, we used to say no more than 10. I would honestly say less than that even, but it really depends how much you're going to break out your account, your campaigns, your service offerings, or your product offerings, and your keywords. So again, you want to keep it to a manageable number. I typically don't see campaigns with more than 5 to 10 ad groups. I'd say that's probably average. Maybe 5 is probably average from what I've seen. So again, it is going to depend, but I hope that gave you a little bit of a rule of thumb. So just thinking about a manageable number there, kind of the same notion that I said earlier. If you feel like you have a ton of ad groups within your campaign, that's probably an indicator that you need a secondary campaign. So to split those out and theme out those groups of ad groups, really great question there. Tons of other questions coming in. I'll try and answer as much as I can. All right, and if you haven't had your questions dropped in, go ahead and drop them in now. All right, a couple of folks are asking, what is the #1 metric I should look at in my mid-year audit? This is a great question, but unfortunately there is no black and white answer to this because there is no one end-all be-all metric. And I get asked this all the time, and I think, you know, we wish that there was, like you would assume, sure, like cost per lead or maybe return on ad spend, like that's, you know, where you're gonna understand the bang for your buck. But at the end of the day, there are a lot of metrics that matter and can make an impact. So while you should be focused on those types of like key metrics, you want to be looking at all of them. There is no one metric that I think one business should prioritize. I think that you need to be looking at what your goals are, because there are metrics that I think do get overlooked. Like, for example, if your goal is brand awareness, then you should be looking at impressions, even though I think to a lot of businesses, impressions don't mean as much. But I think it can be really important. Or for example, in a search situation, potentially top impression share or absolute top impression share. All right, with that, I wish I can answer all of the questions, but I'm seeing a lot coming in for like specific businesses, specific situations. So if you haven't yet answered that poll, or if you have a question like that, be sure to hit yes on that poll now. I'm going to wrap up this webinar, but just know that we do them twice a month. So you will be able to attend another webinar at the end of this month. So keep your eyes out for that if you want to attend more of these in the future. Thank you all so much for joining today. Again, you'll get the materials, a copy of the slides and the recording in your inbox. And you can also easily find our webinar recordings on our YouTube channels. You can find our benchmarks report and more information on what we covered here on the WordStream and Local IQ blogs. Thank you all again for hopping on, listening, hearing me out, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you.